Alright, welcome to the channel, and today we'll be talking about the Amps & Sound Agartha, but not the Agartha from before that I did impressions on, but the Agartha 2.0. And so this one it's got some new upgrades to it and some different parts and what have you. Justin from Amps & Sound has generously sent this to me to do a quick video on and impressions prior to going to Can Jam New York City. So this will be at Can Jam New York City. So if you want to listen to it and you're in that general area vicinity during that time frame, this will be there. And actually I will be there as well, helping Justin with his booth, so that'll be fun. If you want to come by and say hi, that'd be great. Anyhow, back to this lovely little thing, and by little I mean it's not little, it's very heavy and very large. But it's a 300B, same as the Agartha. So with that, let's dive into this amp, my experience with it. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of it or anything like that as far as like what he's done to upgrade it or what have you. That's kind of over my head, so I'm just going to go into my experience with this little amp that I've had for a bit, and we'll start off with headphones. By the way, seriously guys, gals, this thing, Grumpy Goose, it's beautiful, beautiful headphone stand. It's my favorite. Love this thing. Yeah, fantastic headphone stand. Beautiful. Anyhow, sorry, sidetracked. Starting with the Verite Opens, we will be discussing how this sounds. And so I have it off of the low Z initially, and then I'll kind of work my way up to the high Z, which will be low Z, 16, 32, 100 ohm, and then high Z. And I also discuss a little bit later on about this little fun switch that he has up top, which is the high and low. And what that is, we'll go into it in a little bit, but let's get into some sound. I'm actually utilizing my TT2 right now with Qobuz, and I'm actually controlling it with my phone. So kind of fun, little deal there. Let's dive into this, and I think the first track I'm going to listen to is not necessarily going to be the most audiophile track, but I really dig on this track. It's and actually it just recently was brought to my attention. It's a new track and a new artist to me, but the artist is Teddy Swims, and this track specifically will be 911. So I'm on low Z right now, and honestly I paused it for a second just so I can kind of discuss this. Low Z, before I hear volume, like before I hear any kind of tube noise, I'm roughly, and the Verites, by the way, are notoriously, for whatever reason, can pick up a lot of tube noise, but I'm only just starting to get it roughly probably about 60% volume, 60-70% volume is where I'm starting to just and I have to really listen for it, but to really make it discernible is probably closer to that 75-80% is when I start to like, okay, I can actually hear it without having to strain. So that's low Z. I'm going to pop this up to 16, and at 65-70% is when I start to first becoming aware of it, and this is with no music playing, by the way. And then up to 32, I'm getting it pretty much across the board with this one. So 32 is where it starts to, I can hear, it's just that kind of, I can hear it across all the different volume levels. And this is with my setup here currently with the Verite Open specifically. And that's at 32, so let's jump up to 100. And at 0 volume, I could definitely pick it up, and it's there, like it's definitely there, but it's not like a obnoxious tube noise. It's more just like this very slight little like ants eating snow, but it's very minimal. And then up to high Z, and that's when it becomes a little bit more like interfering a little bit in the high Z range. So I'd say probably the optimal would be the 32. And in fact, let's play some music real quick. Okay, at 32 ohms, once music's going, the little bit of noise I am picking up is pretty much non-existent. I don't really notice it, except for if it's a very quiet point in the track. Let's go back up to 100 ohms and start again. Okay, so with the 100 ohms, I felt that the Verites came the most alive, and like, it's just, the engagement's definitely upped. It's very fantastic, and the tube noise, once again, it's minimal enough to where I'm not it's not a bother. It's just there, right? Like, and it's only really noticeable in very quiet parts of a track or in between tracks. And even then, it's like, I don't really. It's not enough for me to be thinking it's a problem. And that's gonna vary person to person as far as what you like or don't like or that kind of deal. But for me, honestly, at 100 ohm tap, it's just like that engagement. Yeah, so that engagement is just lovely at the 100 ohm tap, minus the fact that, you know, whoever whatever your preferences are as an individual, that could factor in. But to me, I mean, that's choice. And so with that being said, I'm gonna go, I think for this kind of thing, actually, let me switch over to the HD800s real quick. Let me put this back on the Grumpy Goose. So let's switch to the lovely, my wonderful Frank the Tank HD800. Man, so you might have seen me wearing these little kind of ties. They're just photography ties, and I wear them on my wrist mostly just because for stuff like this, I'll randomly use them to tie things down, and it's nice to have them on hand. And I usually carry them in my bag. I usually have a bunch, but these things are freaking awesome for everything. So you just do that, and then boom, you got your nice little, especially for this HD800 cable, which is like 10 feet long. And so let's pump this guy back up to 100 ohm tap real quick. And I'm gonna put the same track, still listening to 911 by Teddy Swims. Ooh. So with the HD800s, the thing I noticed the most is it has that beautiful magical stage and imaging. But then with the Agartha, it's just, oh, man, the presence is more forward. Engagement and richness is upped up. The engagement and richness is just, it's cranked up a bunch. And the low end is actually, the HD800's always had a nice punchiness to it, but the thing about the HD800 is it's always been kind of anemic. It might have that dynamicness, but it's not really like a slam or like a super bassy headphone. With this, it still has that punchy cleanliness that the HD800 has, but it has a little more richness to it. There's a little more oomph behind it. There's a little more enjoyment there. So yeah, big fan of that. I will say though, of the headphones, like my Verte Open though, it's a whole nother game though, man. Like that one, it just across the board is super fun, engaging, lovely sound with the Agartha. Yeah, so I'm gonna throw that one back on, just because I honestly just love the way these things sound with this, and in general, these are my favorite headphones. So, and then we'll talk about what I'm hearing. So I'm gonna put this back to the 100 ohm range, and so that's where I'm gonna kind of keep it, the 100 ohm range, for this general impression and experience with this thing. And so let's jump to, so we'll do another quick listen with the 911, and then I'll discuss what I'm hearing with it. So with the way that this presents sound, like the lows are just really lovely, rich, punchy, but they're not boomy or bloomy. The mids as well have that like a nice clean, but also like a nice rich, enjoyable sound to them, but it's not overly done. This almost reminds me more of a warm solid state, to be honest. But the tubes add just a nice richness to it, and a nice just a lovely sound. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's just super engaging. I really enjoy it. It's this very nice layering of engagement and richness to the whole range. Like it just has this kind of je ne sais quoi, I guess. It's so hard to describe this stuff sometimes. But let's get into, I'm gonna do Susan Wong Vincent for testing of the kind of like sibilants and highs. And so in this one, she has like a really lovely voice, but it can be the guitar, and her voice can sometimes come off as a little bit bright. Okay, so yeah, like the highs, they have this nice, especially with this track, it has a kind of a weird resonance to the track, but the guitar plucks and in her vocals, they just have a nice sound. Even though there's like that resonance still there, it just sounds really good. Like it's not overdone. It doesn't even kind of push too far into the highs where it's like that peaking. It doesn't really peak as much, and there's like a maple syrup, I guess, like a, this rich sound to her vocals. It's just really beautiful. And the way that the guitar plucks happen, and the detail too, that's the other crazy part, is like the detail I'm picking up in this, like you can hear the sliding of the strings, the plucking of the guitars. Let's try, my go-to for the next part. We'll talk about a little bit of imaging and separation, what have you. We'll do My Signal and the Noise by Go-Go Penguin, and then we'll push into the rest of this. Oof, man, okay. It's just clean, beautifully clean. Like I can hear exactly like the foot stomp on the pedal to get the kick drum to hit and get that bass in there, and then the stand-up bass, you can hear it separated over and just like a little bit further forward and off to the side, and you can hear him strumming the bass, and then you hear the snares, and like it's just the piano off to, oh man, like yes, this is definitely a very the holographic thing I was talking about. This really presents really well, especially paired with the ZMF Verite Opens. And like I said, I have it turned off right now, so I am picking up a little bit of that tube noise, but it's not annoying. It's not horrible. It's not something that's really bothered me greatly. The exchange is that engagement with the music. Like, oof, man, it is something else. I'm just, the detail and the image separation and the way you can pick apart like the stage and where it's at and the depth of it, like it just has this beautiful holographic sound, and it's enjoyable, like beyond. Like it's super, just I could close my eyes listening to this and just kind of lose time. So definitely a beautiful, beautiful pairing. And I think, so I don't have any planars here with me currently on hand, but I've been told by Justin and some other people that have heard this with planars, and they say that is the combo, which I believe, because I've heard with the headphone and the Rad Zeros from Rosin Audio, those were fantastic with some of Justin's amps. Like they just, oh man. And then that tube noise, actually, for whatever reason, you don't really pick it up as much with the planars, which kind of boggles my mind, because usually, planars and tube amps don't necessarily go well together. And I have heard the Rad Zeros with not this specific amp, but with some other of his amps, and it was one of my favorite pairings, so I can attest to that at least. Okay, so let's go into the overall sound. And so right off the bat, I'm going to tell you the main way I listened with the Agartha 2.0 was with the Corn Scala speakers, and they, oh man, they just screamed. Like, not in a scream like in a piercing bad way, but they just, oh man, fantastic. I loved it, and I still, like, that's my preferred way of listening with this. So with headphones, it's easier for me to close out the world around me and just kind of focus in and lose the rest of the world, right? Like I can close my eyes and it's very intimate, very like engaging. And where speakers are also very intimate and engaging, there's more like factors from the outside world that will contribute, right? Like I can hear my daughter more, or I can hear, people running around, or there's things that can interrupt it a little bit if you're not in a, dedicated point in time listening to it or what have you. And so, take that for what it is. But I will say the majority of the time was listening to this with my Corn Scalas, and I love them. Like that combo is beautiful. And with the headphones though, it's like the same thing. I really love that sound. It's super rich, engaging, and lovely. And I'm kind of gushing a little bit, but I am a fan. I'm a fan of this sound, this house sound, if you will. So the build of this it's beautiful. He did a really great job with the way he did the lines, or he had the casework done. And I've always liked Justin's aesthetic. It has just really nice with the black top plate with matte black. It looks really beautiful. It's really pretty. And the wood choices, and he has little black ends on them. It's just really, really beautiful looking setup here. The 300Bs look really cool because they're just so big as far as like build and aesthetics go. But at the same time, I also think they're a little bit too much for my personal preference. But it is, here nor there. And overall though, the full quality of it is just really well done, really well made. You can tell it has like that nice craftsmanship and care put into it in building it. The volume knob has a kind of a fun ratchety kind of attenuator, and so it's a stepped attenuator. So it's got the bunk you can hear as it goes. All the toggles, so you have a speaker to headphone toggle on the back, and then you have this low high toggle. And so going into that, that's kind of the features about this. So the speaker to headphone, I love that you can just toggle so you don't have both playing at the same time, that would be horrible. And the fact that you can do it with just the toggle and not having to pull any kind of cables to have it work the way you want it to work is really lovely. And then the fun, I call it the fun switch, this low-high switch that he has here above all the taps, adding more power to the signal and channel. It pushes everything forward and it gives you just a little bit more presence. It's fun. This kind of reminds me of kind of like the equivalent of like an i-fi bass boost, but without, it's like, but across the board instead of just in boost, instead of just in bass boost. So that's that fun little toggle there. My main use case with this amp is with low power requirement speakers. And speaking of also, it also has the 2 hum pots behind each of the 300Bs here, and I never really, I mean, I got them dialed in initially, but they really didn't need it too much. But they have that to where you can dial in if there's a hum that you're getting hum for whatever reason, you can use those to dial in and remove the hum. And I didn't really have too many issues with it. In fact, I had 0 issues with it. They're set dead neutral on both, and I had no problems. I have no hum from that. But you can kind of tweak them to see what that actually does, and you do get hum as you move them to either side. But I can see like the benefit of having it on your desk with a really nice set of near field speakers or bookshelves, and I think those are the 2 main things I could see it being utilized in. But once again, my main use case was basically down here in the living room with the corn scallops because I loved it so much. So yeah, with that being said, I think I will wrap this up and stop gushing over this, and hopefully everyone that's in the New York area that's going to Can Jam will stop by and say hi to myself and Justin. I'll be at the, like I said, the Amps and Sound booth there at New York City's Can Jam, so looking forward to that, and we'll catch you all on the next one. Cheers. All right, welcome to another